Welcome to another episode of Up and In. As always, am I Black Elmore, and with me is my main man Hack. Hack, how was your week this week?
Good week. I got a Wi-Fi router extender, so
Dude,
hopefully, we have a great show this week. I stay in the whole show. Fingers crossed.
hey, I tell you what, your imagery is already 10 times better than it was. So I'm already got my hopes are high. I'm excited for this week. Anyway, any knee jerk reactions from this week in baseball? Anything catch you off guard before we get into some organized news?
I mean, for me, the big one was this weekend. I'm a Phillies fan, so that was it was nice to take two or three this weekend. And like the chat said, the Braves getting a win. I thought the Braves were going to turn it around this week, but it's not looking that way.
Hey man, they started off the season tough. They had the Padres, they had the Dodgers right out the gate. I also thought going to Miami that might give them a little bit of a reprieve, let them get back in the win column, which ultimately it did. But Miami, man, they are a scrappy team this year. They never say die. They're always in the game. They truly never give up, and they were able to obviously they were able to take 2 out of 3 from the Braves this weekend. Hopefully, like I said, that turns around for the Braves coming up soon. But we're going to take a quick jump into the week. A lot of action this week from around the league. We'll jump into our weekly recap. It all started this week hot and heavy on Monday when news came out that Jurickson Profar was going to be suspended for 80 games this season after failing for a PED suspension. Once he does return later on in the season, he can play, but he will not be eligible for playing in the playoffs as part of the new punishments for a violation. Do you think this is going to have a huge impact on the Braves season? I know that they're not starting off the hottest, but 1-7 so far this year. Do you think losing Jurickson Profar is going to maybe rally the team, or do you think this is going to kind of spell in what kind of season the Braves can look forward to this year?
I'm split on that one. I don't think it helps. I don't think it's going to rally them. That was their big offseason acquisition. He's coming off of an all-star year. Now we can go back in time and wonder, was that all-star year deserved? Now, did he, for lack of better word, cheat his way into this contract? And I think the bigger issue is none of that. To me, the Braves season started and still starts when Acuna and Strider return. But the fact that you paid all that money for a player that's, even if he comes back and sets the world on fire, is not playoff eligible. Why are you playing him? Why? I don't, at this point, to me, you just paid dead money. He's eligible to come back in 80 games, so you'll be halfway through the season. But as it's not in theory, in reality, you're taking time away from a guy that's going to need those postseason at-bats.
Hey, no, absolutely. Like I said, June 29th is when he'll be eligible to return. He just signed that 3-year, $42 million deal with Atlanta last season, the season we are speaking of. Earlier in the year, Will Smith, catcher for the Dodgers, when they were playing, and Jurickson Profar got hit. Profar took that kind of personal and said, why are you coming at me? Will Smith said, why would we even go at you? You're nobody. You're basically a nobody in this league. And right after that happened, Profar kind of took off. Profar took that personally. He had 24 home runs, 85 RBIs, batted just under 300 with a 280 average last year, which is by far his best season of his career, especially coming off of injury in, 2023. He only played 14 games. Coming back from injury, he had his career best year. I don't know why none of us saw the signs. Usually when a guy comes off of injury at his age, usually they don't get better. Usually there's a bit of a regression, and then towards the end of the season, they kind of get their feet underneath them. But he was on fire the full season, and we never once considered PEDs as a thing. Do you think he'll be able to return to the caliber of player he was before the 2023 season? I mean, obviously last year's season was probably out of question, as he was probably using last season as well. But do you think he'll be able to at least contribute to the Braves lineup when he comes back?
Yes, I think he'll be I mean, we're talking about him like he wasn't a proficient MLB player. He just took his game to where last year the Padres had 3 All-Stars in their outfield instead of the normal 2 and a 250 solid utility guy on the field. But I think he's going to return to that. You're in the show, you have to show and prove. You know, you never had those numbers. You now have the stamp of a steroid user on you. So history says he's not going to get back to those numbers.
Yeah, and I would totally agree with you. But hopefully, fingers crossed for Profar's sake and the Braves' sake, because obviously when Braves are good, it's good for baseball. The NL East is always better when there's three teams vying for that top spot. Obviously, the Braves, the Phillies, and the Mets were kind of in everybody's forefront for that to happen this season. Those three to battle it out. The Braves obviously not having the start that they were hoping for. And we're going to go on ahead and go on to Tuesday now. Obviously, Profar was suspended Monday. Tuesday, nothing crazy that rocked the boat news-wise happened, but Lance Lynn, a long-time career, 13 years in the majors, he did finally announce his retirement. He spent 13 years mostly with St. Louis, but he also spent time in Minnesota, the Yankees, Texas, and the White Sox. And he also spent half a season with the Dodgers. I forget about that all the time, but he did. Like I said, Lance Lynn, he is absolutely a great. Like I said, I loved watching him on the mound. He held his emotions on his face. He always knew how he felt about a call. One of the more entertaining pitchers in the league. Obviously, he's been around a while. Hack, any opinions on Lance Lynn retiring after a great career?
He was definitely a major league pitcher. You know, a solid, I'd say a 3. I don't know. You probably have seen him more than me. Maybe it sounds like you had a little more of a fanhood.
Oh, dude. I was always betting over on Lance Lynn's strikeouts. There's always like a 4.5, 3.5. He was always a low strikeout guy, but I loved whenever his props would pop up. I loved watching Lance Lynn pitch, especially later in his career when he went back to St. Louis to kind of finish things up. And one thing about him is he finished his career with an under 4 ERA at 3.74. And the dude ends his career at 99 losses. He will never get to triple digits. If you ask me, I think this is a brilliant move on Lance Lynn's part, finishing up with 143 wins, 99 losses. Don't cross into that triple-digit loss column. And I think you had a hell of a career. But yeah, Lance Lynn was great. I'm glad he was able to finish it up with the Cardinals last year. He did end the season last year on injury, so his season did kind of end a little bit early. I believe it was early September. So it is a shame that he had to go out kind of on the injury path, but, things happen. He was getting up there in age. What was it? He's 1987 he was born, so he's almost 40 years old. I think he did everything he set out to do, and congratulations to him on a fantastic career. Like I said, he was still slinging it up until his last games. His WHIP last year was 1.34, one of the highest in his careers, and I think that's he just figured it was time to hang it up. But anything else about Lance Lynn before we move to some bigger news that would hit us Wednesday that I think you might have a little bit more opinions on?
No, I'm saying good career. Good career.
Good career. Exactly.
But
we're going to jump to Wednesday during the week, and we had a couple big contracts hit the books. I believe there's 3 contracts signed, but the main 2 that we're going to discuss right now is Jackson Merrill. He signed a 9-year extension worth $135 million. Merrill finished second in Rookie of the Year voting last year. He turns 22 later this month. I mean, congratulations to the Padres, absolutely locking down a stud for long term, and I think they got a heck of a good deal on the dollar value end of it. What's your opinion on the Padres signing Jackson Merrill long term? Do you think that's a good move, or do you think they'll kind of come to regret it later on?
I think it's a great move. For me, I think in my recent memory, only the Phillies with Scott Kingery regretted signing a young star to a long-term deal. If you look at what the Braves did, I know this season it's not playing out, but look at all that young talent that they have locked in because they got them to buy in at a young age to long contracts where you're still making money. I think you said 193?
135 million over 9 years.
Okay, 135. You're not poor, but that's also not a Soto deal. It's definitely a team-friendly contract for a great player. So I think on a different note, it puts the fire to some of these other teams. As what's Milwaukee going to do with Churiel? What will Pittsburgh do with Skeens? Because Merrill's as big of a star as any of those other rookies that I've named. So he's kind of set the bar for early contract signings.
Yeah, and he has absolutely produced so far this season. In the 10 games he's played, he already has 10 RBIs, 3 home runs. Really, he's batting a nasty 378 so far on the season. Definitely showing his appreciation for that contract in San Diego. And also, how about that dig that he said in the press when it's like, hey, I'm not a guy who's going to sign for $700 million and essentially hurt the team. I want to build a team with guys I consider my family and put guys around me that can help us win. A lot of people thought that was a shot at Soto. But really, I think if you look at the number he threw out there, that's $700 million. I think it seems like more of an Ohtani shot, especially with the Padres and the Dodgers and the beef that they've had over the last 2 seasons, especially in the NL West and the fast start both teams have had this year. Do you think that he was just kind of throwing out a random number there? Or do you think he was kind of pouring a little bit of chum in the water, starting something on the back end?
I definitely think he had purpose with that number. And I think that but to your point, I think it would be more of a dig at the Dodgers and their payroll than across to the East Coast at Juan Soto. I think there's talks like San Diego and where baseball is going. It's easier to get team-friendly contracts when you put a winner on the field. Like, he doesn't have concerns about is San Diego going to be a winner in 9 years. Everybody has your natural concerns. You can't predict the future, but San Diego, a beautiful ballpark, great fans.
As long as they're not singing and making music videos, because those music videos those Padres fans are making are not it. This just in, or whatever the heck they were singing. Don't ever do that again.
Fun. They're having fun.
That's true. That's true.
I think I root and I'm near a great baseball city, but it gets cold in Philly. It don't get really that cold in San Diego. I can't think of many places that are a better atmosphere if I'm going to spend my next 9 years and have. I mean, look, that kid's a marketing agency's dream. So he's going to make plenty of money. He doesn't need it all from baseball.
Yeah, I think it's a great move locking him up for 9 years. Like I said, this dude's going to be a forefront of the offense. For Fernando Tatis, Machado, they have a lineup that can compete in the tough NL West. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit more about the NL West here in a little bit. But another guy signed a huge contract. Obviously, in the chat over here, it was mentioned about Christian Campbell. And what was it? The other guy from Boston that got a big contract the same day on Wednesday. But the other one we're going to talk about is Ketel Marte. He's finally got a 6-year extension, $116.5 million deal. I think you have a little bit more of an opinion on the Ketel Marte trade. What do you think about that signing?
I think it's great. That's for the last. We're going to go with 3 years. He's been the best second baseman in baseball. I know it's under the radar in Arizona, but look at the numbers. Arizona didn't get to the World Series because of Corbin Carroll. They got to the World Series because of Ketel Marte. I watched the hot streak as a Phillies fan. He's the one with the hitting streak. He's the guy that got the big hits. He's there. If he's not their best player, he's definitely how the motor of that team. So it's nice to see a player for so much like us. We talk about baseball. We hear other people talk about doing things the right way and all that. He plays baseball the right way, and he's finally got paid for doing it.
Yeah, dude is an absolute beast at second base. Started his career in Seattle in the 2015 season. Came over to Arizona in 2017, has been there ever since. He was an absolute beast last year, hitting 36 home runs, just under 100 RBIs. And just like you said, Hack, the year they went to the World Series, he had 9 triples, 25 home runs, and another 82 RBIs to go around along with it. He's honestly one of their probably the more steady players that they have offensively, especially last year when Carroll had the beginning of the season slump that he was in. Marte was really the forefront of the offense and kind of kept them in that race for later in the season. So I'm glad that he was able to kind of sign that extension. It is a shame that he is on the 10-day injured list right now, right after he signed that contract, but he has had a great start to the season so far this year as well. Already hit 3 doubles. He's got 9 hits on this season. And Jesus, he's been walked 6 times, 346 batting average. So he's finally getting that respect he deserves at the plate. But those are 2 names that we're going to get to see in the Diamondbacks and Padres uniforms for years to come. We're going to keep this train moving and move on to Thursday. In Florida, they voted 7-1 in the city council, for the local city council, that the Rays are approved to spend $22.5 million to revamp Tropicana Field after it was damaged in the hurricane earlier this season. Obviously, right now they're playing at Steinbrenner Spring Training Field to get through this season. But I know that the Rays were planning on trying to move out of their stadium and get a new stadium deal. obviously having to repair this stadium as they are under contract still, that's going to hurt that a little bit. But do you think this is good for the Rays? Obviously, they have a problem selling out their stadium. Do you think revamping it and putting some more money into the stadium might help boost ticket sales?
No, it's not. There's disinterest, and to me, one of the big reasons they got approved for the spending is because that's where every event in Tampa Bay happens. So the Rays can spin it like, yeah, they gave us this money for the baseball stadium, but the upgrades are going to benefit the city of Tampa Bay when they're hosting concerts and other big events that they get in that city. Since we have a minute to talk about their stadium, this is something we were going to talk about in a previous episode we never got to. But they should just be contracted. Like, take this team out of Tampa Bay, take it from the ownership. If Tampa Bay had owners that wanted to win and a fan base that supported them, they probably have a World Series already. But they lose all their talent because they trade it, and there's nobody at the games. It's weird to me, the state of Florida, because it's great for high school baseball and it's great for college baseball. But when you get to the pros, Miami has World Series. Tampa Bay could have World Series, yet they have no fans. So you're just spitting in the wind, trying to make a baseball team successful there.
Yeah, what was it? They were showing the Savannah Bananas were going to play at Tropicana Field, but because of the damage, they had to move their game to Tampa Bay Buccaneers Stadium. They sold that stadium out, and I believe that they had said that they had more people at that game than the Miami Marlins had in like the last 3 months of the season. It was like some crazy statistic that the Savannah Bananas were able to pull more baseball fans than the Rays and the Marlins. The Rays are contractually obligated to stay at Tropicana Field through 2028. They were in talks with a group for a $1.3 billion new stadium. They have since pulled out of that discussion, obviously being contractually obligated to the Tropicana. So they are going to be actually repairing the Trop, and they're going to be playing through 2028. It's unsure as far as the future past that point. But do you think that the Rays are going to stay? Do you think, okay, if in 10 years from now, do you think Tampa Bay has a team?
No.
I don't think so either. I think with all the expansion teams that are out there, they're talking about Portland, Oregon, which is a movement that I'm actually part of here out in Oregon, trying to get a Major League Baseball team here in Portland. The stadium renderings are absolutely gorgeous. We'll talk about that in an episode later this season, the other cities that are in talks about getting a baseball team. But I think that there are other cities that would appreciate the opportunity of having a pro team. Anything else kind of you want to throw about the Rays or, Tropicana Field, anything like that before we move on to some Friday headlines?
I just think this is where the people that are fans of bad teams or teams that they feel like they don't try, this is the worst part of having to be a fan of one of those teams. Because, to me, as an outsider looking in, I just see an owner that has put no effort in making his team stay at a level that deserves $225 million from the city. And you're talking about possibly moving to a $1.3 billion stadium in 3 years. And I don't believe in 3 years you'll be a team that, on the field, that maybe deserves at that kind of stadium. And you're just making an earner. It shouldn't, I don't know. That's just my little rant about that. That shouldn't be allowed. They shouldn't be rewarded so heavily for not investing in the team.
Well, hey, just like you said, though, the city itself relies on this stadium for a lot of the events and, raising funds and bringing events in that will help with tourism and things like that. So obviously, just like you said, there's other reasons behind that money, but the fact that the Rays are being given this opportunity, obviously they need to kind of appreciate this opportunity that they have. They need to kind of put money into the team. They were in World Series 5 years ago. This team was competing for AL East titles not long ago. My buddy Ryan Thompson pitches for the Diamondbacks. He played for the Rays when they were in the World Series. This team is not far removed, but it feels like they're just selling off all their pieces. They should never have gotten rid of Rosarina and other pieces like that. So it will be interesting to see what the Rays do to kind of build up that franchise back to the dominance that they were just a few years ago. We're going to continue on through the week, and we're going to jump over to Friday. Nothing crazy news-wise happened Friday, but two undefeated teams remained on Friday, the Dodgers and the Padres. Hack, why don't you tell us a little bit about that Dodgers-Phillies game when the Dodgers were still undefeated?
I mean, the story of that game, if you watched it, was Luzardo. He controlled that lineup. He kept Ohtani in check. Like, I was actually talking to someone about that. And I was like, well, he kept Ohtani off base. And I was like, it's so bad that we relegate games to one guy. Because, like, if Ohtani went 0 for 4, the Dodgers can still score 10 runs. That lineup is stacked throughout. So, like, that was amazing to me, the way he ate through that lineup. That'll be the story of that game.
Yeah, Luzardo looked like an absolute beast. His parents were in attendance. I don't know if that had helped him kind of put his best foot forward. But yeah, Luzardo was absolutely having a field day against the Dodgers lineup. They said it felt, honestly, had very playoff atmosphere feelings. If you ask me, watching the game, even the commentators were like, this feels like October. And like I said, the way the pitching was going, the way the defense was playing, the way the batters were attacking each at bat, they weren't jumping. Each team wasn't jumping on the first pitch. They were watching pitches, waiting for their pitch. It felt like a playoff atmosphere. And so the Phillies were able to jump out in the first inning when Turner scored on a Yamamoto throwing error. Dodgers came back scoring 2 in the 9th. But dude, Real Muto, he's the reason that the Dodgers lost that game. I mean, you got runners on a 1st and 3rd in the 8th inning with 2 outs. With Mookie Betts up at the plate, one of the hottest hitters on the Dodgers team right now. And yes, Ohtani is fast. He's had over 50 steals last year, but I don't feel like that's the right situation to steal Ohtani there, especially when you have, at that time, a game-tying at-bat with Mookie Betts and 2 guys on base. Do you think the Dodgers kind of got a little cocky in that move, or do you think they were just trying to play aggressive baseball?
Yeah, I think the Dodgers played the baseball the Dodgers play. So if you go, we've seen Ohtani run in that situation a lot. Yeah, it's not out of the Dodgers' character to do that. And I'm not, obviously in this situation, I'm rooting for the Phillies, but Ohtani's fat. I mean, we're questioning, should Ohtani have stolen when we're talking about a 50-50 guy last year. So that to me is, he steals there, and then Mookie gets a single. The Dodgers, in theory, win that game because you still have to finish it out. You got to get the save, but now you're up. You've stolen all the momentum, and this news cycle that we have, Ohtani steals would be all over the place. That would be the signature moment of that game. Ohtani stole second, Betts hit a single, Ohtani scored the game-winning run. It didn't work out, but again, I'll just fall back to, we're talking about a 50-50 guy. Should he have run?
That's true. I guess early in the season when you're undefeated, heat check, right? Like now is the time to see if you really are the team of destiny. But no, I can appreciate and applaud the aggressiveness. I just feel like if you had anybody else at the plate, I would have supported it. If you had Edman up, who ended up hitting a 2-run home run with Betts on in the 9th, so no dig on him. But like if I have someone who I'm less confident in, I may try to steal that base. But I feel like if Ohtani's up, Betts is up, Teoscar Hernandez is up, I'm not trying to take that base because of how hot those guys have been, I guess, is just what I'm saying. But like I said, hey, absolutely fantastic series. Phillies ended up pulling out another nail-biter today. Fantastic series. They beat the Dodgers 2-1 in the series this weekend. But the other team that was undefeated going into Friday, a lot of people were wondering which team was going to be the first to lose. The Padres started off earlier in the day, so they would get the first opportunity. They got to go up against my main man Shota Imanaga, who absolutely lined him up and knocked him down, took care of business. Shota came out, and it was like I said, he was hitting all of his spots. The Padres, I think in the first 13 batters, they had 9 weak pop-ups. The Cubs were able to take 2 out of 3 from the Padres. But did you by any chance get a chance to check out any of that Padres Cubs series?
I saw a couple innings of the Umaga game. When I told you I was watching the Snow game and you had hit me up that you were watching Umaga rifle throw, I switched over for a little bit.
Heck yeah.
I mean, Look, with both these series, there was a lot of talk about it. That we like, we're a baseball podcast. No team's going 162 and 0.
Yeah, absolutely.
9-0, 8-0. That was good. It was. I found both those teams. I'm glad my first loss came against division leading teams that are playing good baseball. We didn't get beaten by the White Sox, or a team like in that ilk, the Nationals, or you're not the Braves going to Miami thinking you were going to get better and walk out worse for wear. Both of these series could be playoff matchups.
Yeah. And I'm going to go ahead and ask this here. This may be a little off topic here. Obviously, we're talking about two of the undefeated teams going down earlier this week with the Dodgers losing to the Phillies and the Padres losing to the Cubs. Obviously, I am not shy about how Shota Imanaga is my favorite pitcher in the majors right now. But without being too biased, is Shota the best starting pitcher this early in the season so far? I mean, he played the Dodgers, and he hear me out before you answer. Opening day, he pitched against the Dodgers in Japan, 4 innings, not giving up a run. He gave up 1 earned run in 7 innings versus a very tough Diamondbacks lineup. And then he allows 1 run over 7 1/3 innings against the Padres. He's allowed 2 runs the entire season against the 3 arguably best teams in the West and 3 of the top 5 teams in the National League. Is he right now pitching the best in the league?
I mean,
and I'm putting you on the spot here.
Well, I mean, he has. I'm going to give it this. It's hard to argue with those numbers, and he has the bonus game. So I can argue Luzardo. His numbers this year and his 2 starts have been lights out for the Phillies. Chris Bassett from Toronto, but I don't believe in Bassett going forward the way I believe in Luzardo and Amaga. So I would say that, but I can't argue with you. You've given up 2 runs and you faced the Padres, Dodgers, and Diamondbacks. That's
3 of the most potent lineups in the league. I mean, that's no matter who you ask, they're going to tell you those are 3 of the top 10 best lineups in baseball.
So until he gets hit right now, I would say, if we're ranking right now, power rankings of pitchers, it's hard to go, Yeah. The Dodgers touched Skewball more than they touched Amaga. And that's an equal, hey, we have an equal opponent to go off of with both of us trying our hard. It's Major League Baseball. Nobody's not trying.
But what a great measuring stick, right? You come out of the gate, you got the Dodgers, Diamondbacks, and the Padres as your first 3 starts to your second year in the league. And you absolutely, I wouldn't say dominate, but you run through those lamps with ease. Besides the Dodgers and him walking 4, he didn't allow a run scored. Like I said, he's got 2 wins out of those 3 games. I'm excited to see what he can do the rest of the year. Is it too early for Shota Cy Young talks? I'm gonna get a shirt made up. I'm gonna start campaigning now. But speaking of pitchers, pitching abilities and Cy Youngs and all that good stuff, Shohei Ohtani yesterday threw a 26-pitch bullpen session for the Dodgers. His first bullpen session since the regular season began. Obviously, 26 pitches doesn't seem like a lot, but they are hoping to ramp him up more frequently throughout the season in hopes of having him ready for the playoffs. Do you think Ohtani is really needed in the Dodgers pitching staff? Obviously, Ohtani is great to have, but do you think that he's really a necessity on that Dodgers staff?
I mean, yes. Hold on. Let me change that.
Okay.
Necessity, no. Need it, yes. Because necessity makes it like without Ohtani, we're not going to succeed. And the World Series ring says the Dodgers bullpen is, we can argue about it, but they're all wearing rings. Well, maybe not all of them, but enough of them. But I know the answer to this. You watched the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah.
That was Trout was healthy then, and Ohtani was healthy, and he threw nothing but fastballs down the middle of the plate and blew him away. If you're in the World Series, and you're facing, the You're the Yankees, and you're going to throw Judge, Goldschmidt, and Jazz up there, and the Dodgers can counter with Ohtani. It matters. It matters. You can't have a player of his caliber and say it doesn't matter and I don't need you. But the Dodgers could survive without the arm.
Definitely, I definitely understand there. Especially I think that it's very important that they start getting him ramped up the right way. They just lost Blake Snell, announced he was going on a 15-day IL with some left shoulder inflammation. What do you know? Did I not call this last week or 2 weeks ago? He got his contract. He has nothing he needs to pitch for anymore. He's going to spend 3 or 4 stints on the IL this year and maybe be a 4-4 pitcher by the time the season's over. Blake Snell, I had so much hope for you when you came to the Giants. Obviously, I hated you when you went to the Dodgers, but you're just doing exactly what I thought you were going to do. And so, hopefully I'm wrong and it's not the case. And the Dodgers do have a great starter in Snell. Obviously, they have Kershaw they still need to bring back and a couple of other guys. So the addition of Ohtani is definitely going to be something that opposing batters are going to fear. But when we talk about the NL West, Hack, we're going to that's kind of our weekly recap for the week. If we missed anything, other big baseball news stories, please throw them in the chat. We'll have to get into them and discuss them. One thing we're going to talk about now is the NL West. All right, the NL West, they have 3 teams with 2 losses or less. My San Francisco Giants are division leaders right now at 8-1. They have winners of 7 in a row, including 2 from behind victories against Seattle and their top pitching staff, including one today where Wilmer Flores hit his 3rd walk-off of the season, mind you. Dude is on fire. The Dodgers are 9-2. They scored 22 more runs than their opponents. Then you got the Padres sitting at 8-2, who've outscored their opponents by 18 runs, and none of these teams have lost at home. Is the NL West the best division in baseball? And feel free to answer in the chat as well.
I mean, this is what we were talking when we were talking about this question earlier today. I don't if we're talking about right now based off of records, it's an unarguable. It's unarguable. You just name their records, and that's the only thing we can base off of how good you are is your record. Now, as what I said, if we're just arguing, maybe not. I'm not talking historically. I'm talking looking at what teams have done the last 5 years. I would argue the AL West is. They have 2 World Series champions every year. In the AL, one of those teams is generally in at least the American League Championship. They have the Mariners, which has one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. But again, when we're talking about, if I was we're going to do a bracket style competition, most divisions I can get 3 good teams out of. The differentiator is the 4th team in the NL West. That's because right now you're sitting, I believe, 4th place is 5-4, Arizona Diamondbacks. Because when we were doing this, I was looking around and 5-4 would put Arizona at worst, I believe, in second place in every other division. So if we do weekly power rankings, in my own head, 4 of the top 10 teams in Major League Baseball reside in the NL West. So if 4 of the top 10 are out of my power rankings or out of a conference, that's almost your whole. And if Colorado was better, they might have a whole 5.
No, that's true. I wish honestly, I miss the days of Colorado being a competitive team. Todd Helton, Larry Walker, Mike Hampton, all those guys. I hope that. Obviously, the Rockies this season are bringing up a lot of their young guns to kind of give them some taste of the big leagues, and hopefully that kind of pays off and gets them more competitive. But Heck, when I look at, like I said, really when I ask this question, who's the best division in baseball? Obviously, the Dodgers are arguably the best team in baseball. But when I look at this season so far, do you see any other division other than the NL West that at the end of the year could have somebody holding the championship crown? Like I said, the Padres and the Dodgers and the Giants right now are my top 3 teams. to kind of make it out of the National League. Even with the Phillies as hot as they've been, I'm still looking at the NL West as the World Series champion is coming out of that division.
See,
have you seen enough from other teams?
My argument to that would be 2 of those teams played the division leaders in the other conferences, and they didn't win the series this weekend. And both those series were hyped up. I mean, I know because I live in the area. The Dodgers Phillies series was hyped like that was the NLCS, and both teams were gonna. If you win this, you're gonna be you're going to the World Series. It's not that because we're in April, but that's how the hype was. And the Phillies took 2 or 3. The Padres went to Chicago with, they're going to get beat by the Dodgers are going to get beat by the Phillies. We'll show out here. And you lost 2 or 3. And Kyle Tucker's as hot as anybody in baseball. So it's Chicago, the Phillies, and we haven't talked about the Mets. The Mets aren't nothing. So I think the odds would say, I hear you. The odds are the NL West because you have 3 teams. But when you get into that postseason, to me, it's just as likely the Phillies or the Mets are in the World Series as the San Diego or Arizona or San Francisco. It's the Dodgers that puts. It's the Dodgers. And then there's everybody else in the NL. And then the gap between the Dodgers and, to me, the Phillies Padres is the same gap between the Phillies Padres and the Mets, Diamondbacks, and the Giants for now.
Is there any other team right now that jumps out to your mind as far as success this year or even failures? That what team has been the most surprise to you, whether their success or their failures?
I mean, it has to be the Braves. That's a cheat answer because, I mean, they have 1 win. But
last year, remember, the Astros were in the same exact position with a terrible start. And I was like, this is done. Season's pack it up, start trading your assets, get some young guys in there. This, the dynasty, quote unquote, because of their, obviously years of success in a row. The dynasty's over. And you sat there and you said, not so fast, Black, not so fast. These guys, like I said, they are winners. They know how to win. They had a rough start to the season, but they ended up coming back and winning the division. Do you think this is a similar situation with the Braves, or do you think this is totally different? Because like I said, the Braves still got guys coming back for later in the year.
So I need to see the difference. I think it could be the same. To me, the difference is the Astros weren't waiting on healthy people or unhealthy. They weren't. It wasn't like Altuve and Verlander and a healthy Verlander. This is like their ace Strider. We still haven't seen a whole season of Strider and Sale.
True.
So but yes, they get healthy. The Mets were dead in the water last year. Then the All-Star break happened, and the same could be said about the Astros. So you asked me, the bigger surprise to me is the Mariners this year. I was not expecting this start out of the Mariners. I thought they would be closer to doing what Texas is doing. And the offense is worse than last year. And the pitching has not equaled the greatness of last year. So could be a rough year.
Yeah, even the other day that just said the Mariners-Giants game, the Mariners found a way to score 9 runs, and the Giants won in extras, 10-9. Like, even when they do put it together offensively, the pitching staff can't put it together. But when the pitching staff puts it together, the offense can't. They got to find – I mean, Justin Turner said it perfect in the offseason. I would have stayed in Seattle if they had done anything to invest in their offense. And that's exactly what we're seeing. It's exactly what we're seeing. If I had to go with my biggest surprise of the year so far, and this may be out there, but I think that the Los Angeles Angels are my big surprise. We're talking about the Dodgers. The Angels are 6-3 right now. They started off the season losing to the White Sox 8-1, bringing in a positional player to close the game out on the mound. And they're in second place in the West. The Rangers obviously 8-2, red hot out the gate. But the Angels at 6-3. They've opened up the season with series wins against the White Sox, the Cardinals, and the Guardians. And obviously the Guardians are no slouches. Obviously the Guardians came to LA, Guardians took game 1 8-6, but since then the Angels won 10-4, 6-2. Trout's on a little bit of a hot streak right now. He's hit 3 home runs in 4 games. I mean, this is the offense we saw the Angels come out with last year before Trout got hurt that we were excited to see. So the question is can that trend continue where they can, one, be competitive in the AL West, or can they finish with a winning record, possibly get Trout into a wild card spot? I don't think there's a world where the Angels compete for the division, but the wild card is definitely not out of the question if they can continue winning these close games like this, playing good tight baseball. I think that the sky's the limit for the Angels. And then when it has to come to disappointment, obviously the Braves are right up there. I think for me it's the Orioles. I think the Orioles starting out 4-6. They've had a tough start to the season. They've had some tough matchups. Obviously, they lost 2 out of 3 to Royals, 2 out of 3 to the Red Sox, and 2 out of 3 to the Blue Jays. And all 3 of those teams are coming out firing. And it doesn't get any easier for the Orioles as they go and play in Arizona to play the Diamondbacks for their next series. Do you think the Orioles are just victim to a tough out-the-gate schedule? Or do you think, maybe losing Burns and not having Gunnar Henderson there is going to start adding up in the L column?
I mean, losing Burns is a big one. That was when things were going bad, you put Corbin Burns out on the mound and he stops. You win, everybody's happy. And they didn't get anything close. I know it's hard to replace Corbin Burns, but you didn't even get a solid second, third starter. You decided to go in with Eflin as opening day guy. Grayson, I'm drawing the blank. Yeah, he's hurt. So they do have hope going forward with getting some people back. But I think Baltimore is going to find out what all of Tampa Bay found out and Toronto found out. It's hard when you're playing in that division because Boston and New York can only stay down for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I said New York is obviously leading the division right now.
Yeah,
go ahead.
You get so much time. I mean, Boston is right now, they're kicking around St. Louis. Devers is snapping out of his slump. The young players, the chat had said about Campbell, their young players are playing. So it's hard, when you're in that kind of division. And to backtrack, we said the NL West, the AL East is like that. There's not an easy game. You tell me the AL East might be better because they don't have their 5th team isn't bad.
Yeah.
Every series. And Baltimore last year, you were still the young kids that didn't prove anything, but you were the darling last year. Yeah, they got the TV games last year. The hype train's out on Gunnar Henderson, Rauschman, Westberg, Cowser, Holiday. Yeah, they have a team full of prospects, and me and you collect cards. They have a team full of rookie cards that you want.
Yeah.
Now when you're showing up to the city, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different.
I think I think you bring up a great point. I think the AL East is absolutely stacked. And you may even have a case for that being probably the second best division in baseball because you got the Orioles at 4-6 in last place in the division right now. You got the Rays in 4th. The Rays have absolutely been smashing, and even with Guerrero not hitting for any home runs yet this season, they're still finding ways to score runs. He's getting on base. The Red Sox, they seem like a team with a fire lit under their backside. Like I said, they're winning 5-4 right now. They're obviously destroying the Cardinals. The Yankees, like I said, 6-3. The Diamondbacks came into town, took 2 out of 3 in a series, but what was it? Juan Carlos Stanton came into the dugout and said, "We do not get swept at home. We do not get swept here." And they came out and they took care of business against the Diamondbacks. I'm just glad that the whole mess with the torpedo bats has kind of calmed down a little bit. Obviously, like I said, the Reds, they had a historic streak this week. The first team since I believe 1946 Phillies to lose 3 games in a row by 1-0 scores. I mean, that was something from this week that absolutely was insane. 3 straight games of 1-0 losses for the Reds. I mean, like I said, baseball is full swing. I'm excited for it. Hack, I know that before we're about to get out of here, I know that we like to end each episode with Hack's question of the week. So Hack, please go ahead, drum roll, Go ahead and send it my way. What is your question of the week for me?
I put a time cap on this because I don't want to go forever. So we'll go within the next 10 years. Will a Major League Baseball player steal 100 bases?
Will Major League Baseball players steal 100 bases in the next how many years?
10 years.
10 years. Okay. So let me just look at this logically. Right? We got Elly De La Cruz. Last season, he had arguably one of the best stealing base seasons since Ricky Henderson. And he had 67. This year he is a much better hitter. He's getting on base more. I think that he has the potential to get up to 100, but the guy that I think can do it isn't even in the big leagues yet. He's someone that plays for the Tampa Bay Rays in the minor league system. His name is Chandler Simpson. This dude hit a ground ball to the first baseman, I think it was Thursday, and beat out the play at first. Like, dude hit to the first baseman 15 feet off the bag and beat the first baseman to the bag. Last season in minors, he had 104 stolen bases last year in minors. In the minors, he had 104 stolen bases. So, granted, stealing in the minor leagues versus JT Realmuto, is a huge difference. But the fact that he's able to do that, as young, I believe he's like a 19-year-old kid. He's super young because he had 104 stolen bases last season in the minors. He came up, he showed off his speed and what he can do in spring training. Like I said, hitting the ball directly to the first baseman and beating out that play in the infield for the base hit. I think once he's brought up, he is somebody that has the potential to have 100 stolen bases. I think when he comes up, Elly is finally going to have competition for the stolen base crown every single year. You're going to have your American League winner and your National League winner. And it's going to be like the hot dog eating contest where the two guys, Joey Chestnut and whatever the other guy's name is, it's going to be between them two just to see who is the best hot dog eater. Well, it's going to be between those two guys to see who can steal the most bases. And I'm excited to see what Chandler Simpson can do. But heck, I'm going to send your own question right back at you. Do you think somebody steals 100 bases in the next 10 years?
First, I feel bad for Chandler Simpson because in your story, you know that Elly is Joey Chestnut, and that just leaves the guy that you said as, oh yeah, the other guy that eats hot dogs. But
it's a bad
at least for the other guy. So way to be. I was thinking about this. I didn't want to say no because that's like a cop out of an answer. Like, come on, at least be. So I'll go with yes, but my guy is in the National League, but he's not Elly. It's Xavier Edwards from Miami. And I'm going to go you one better. I'm going to pick my year, and it won't be long, so we'll be able to go quick. 2027. So 3 years, like in the 2027 season, because right now he bats around 280, 300. I need to see him do it for a whole year because you got to be on base to steal 100 bases. That's my thing with Elly is until he cuts the strikeouts, he would need to steal his percentage, like times on base to the steals he gets would have to be such a high percentage because he doesn't walk. Like, man, if that man learned plate discipline and walked 70 times a season, 100 times, just imagine the numbers he could. But he doesn't. So it's going to be Xavier Edwards for me.
Okay. Well, hey, speaking of stolen bases, my main man, O'Neal Cruz, which I told you at the beginning of the season. What did I say? The dude is faster than you think. I don't know why the Pirates don't use him on the base paths. I said that exact word for word earlier in the year. He is now leading the league in stolen bases with 7. The Pirates are running every chance they get somebody on base, and they have 2 wins on the season. I think y'all need to change something up. Okay, I don't think it's working for you.
Yeah. The one thing about that, let me ask you this, because I know you're a huge fan of his. He is so big, so big, that do you worry that him, like you say, unleash him? So, like, you worry, hey, if this guy would steal 50 bases, 60 bases, because again, like I agree with you. He's fast. I think he could steal what Ohtani and Elly get to. But do you want, with his history, injury history, all the as much of an impact as he is defensively and with his bat, how much do you really want to send him? Because like leading the league in steals, 7, you're already. It's a lot of people would have said 20 steal season for him was a great season, and you're almost halfway there in the second week of April.
Yeah, true. With O'Neal Cruz, I really like the move of getting him out of shortstop where he was kind of a defensive liability, putting him in the outfield where I think it's a little bit less wear and tear on his body, less collisions as far as runners sliding into him, diving plays, etc. So I think that it's a great move to put it on the center field, and I think that will help limit his injuries. But like with any great player, he is kind of a liability in center field also. I think the ultimate plan for O'Neal Cruz needs to be a corner outfield spot where he's going to minimize his injury risk. But yeah, I think while my team is as young as it is, the Pirates are right now, while they have those guys there, I'm going to try to push them as hard as they can go. I'm going to try to get O'Neal Cruz 50 steals this season. I'm going to push him until he says he can't go. I'm going to push him till he can't because he said he's young. Now is the time to get those numbers out of him. When he's over 30 years old, you're going to be relying on him as a power guy. That next step. He might lose that extra gear. He might not be able to steal later in his career. So you really want to maximize him now because you got Skeens, you got Keller, you got the young pieces on the team now to be successful. You just got to find a way to put it together. So I think you got to go all in with O'Neal Cruz because I think if you don't unleash him, he's going to go somewhere that will.
I guess that's the thing. With Pittsburgh, it's always somebody else. That's why I was smirking because the unleashing, Pittsburgh's not going to ever unleash Paul Skeens. The next team will.
Right. Well,
unfortunately.
Game 1 of the season was prime example of that. When he's mowing through the Marlins, they take him out in the 6th inning after his 6th inning. I think he was like 84 pitches. Like there's no reason you couldn't have a 100 pitch limit on Paul Skeens. He was throwing fine in the spring training. He's not, having shoulder issues. It's not, let's save him for the playoffs. Like his arm is as healthy as it's going to be all year.
They took his no-hitter last year from him. It's the things that they're and it's crazy because they got Bubba Chandler in their pipe works coming. And it's just going to be, again, another. It's sad for Pittsburgh because Pittsburgh in 3 years could be a real problem if they just did the right things. And unfortunately, history says you're not going to do the right things. And it sounds like Skeens likes it in Pittsburgh. I haven't really heard him. Normally you start to hear rumbles about players being like, I don't know, I'm big for this city. Pittsburgh is a small city. But you don't hear that from him. He seems happy there. And you just, not like you said, you're not unleashing. It just seems like they're saving it to trade it.
Yeah, no, I can't. I can agree with you 100%. Well, folks, that's kind of wrapping up this week of Up and In with myself and Hack. Last week, we did our pitching draft for our best starting 5 rotation. We did say we were going to do a positional draft this week. With so much news this week, we did have to cut that out, but we do have that ready to go for next week as well. If we have to do a little bit longer of a show, we will. We will get that in for you guys. But Hack, anything else you want to say to the audience before we get out of here and show them some highlights?
That was a solid spin out of you. Waiting a week for your drafted team to do better. I like that. But we'll go with running out of time. That's good. Bravo to you.
Hey, I have the ability to mute you, Hack. I can push this button right here and your mic will no longer work. Okay, so you better watch your mouth. But no, okay, I appreciate it. Another wonderful day of baseball tomorrow. Obviously, Red Sox and Cardinals are still going on right now. A great matchup starting tomorrow. Mariners, Astros, Orioles, Diamondbacks. We got Rangers, Cubs. We got Blue Jays, Red Sox. Like I said, all coming down the turnpike for tomorrow. I'm excited to watch some more baseball. Everybody have a fantastic week. As always, we're going to end this episode with a little over a minute of some highlights, some web gems, some home runs. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Up and In. We'll see y'all next Sunday. Same time, same place.